backwards. It seems backwards. Because you guys don't actually get to hit each other in this. Well, you might hit each other in this panel if things get out of hand. What? I have no idea what you're mumbling. Well, yeah, I'm an optimist. You're recording me already and right down the centers. It's going to make me paranoid. This is...
You know I do this every year.
Because I never know what gets put up, and I didn't know that YouTube actually has an entire section of R-rated content that you can sign into. And so I did an uncensored comedy panel that I'm like, I don't care if you record, was that you? And put it up.
I got your permission.
Because well, yeah, I'll say yes to anything at a convention. I mean, I might get a boat.
Well, actually, no. I told you I wasn't going to put it up.
If anybody was at that panel,
I
wasn't thinking at all. I'm like, yeah, you can record. It's not going to, I'm not going to lose a gig because of it. I'm not a voice actor. And I just assumed that meant you were recording me telling embarrassing stories about myself. I didn't know you were putting it online until about 3 conventions later when I started to tell a story and all these people start laughing. I'm like, hey, wait for the punchline. And they said it for me. I'm like, how do you know that story? Like, we watched it online. And I'm like, I have never recorded this before. And they're like, somebody did.
Yeah, I recorded
like, that's awesome.
I was talking to Jill on Facebook asking if it was okay.
Oh, well, sure. My wife's going to be okay with me embarrassing myself.
She's like, oh, no, Dan was perfectly fine with it. Go ahead. And I said, okay, I will.
Oh, she would have been.
Yeah, she was there for that one, too.
It's always the embarrassing things. There's memes of me on Facebook.
I did tag it for age appropriate.
Me doing dumb things. There's a picture during our stage show when I'm cutting with the sword. I'll describe the scene that there's a bad guy flying towards the camera with a sword up over his head going, ah! And then I'll stop and say, don't take my picture. This is always what ends up on the internet. And that's because if you go to Anime Central's webpage, if you go to asin.org, if you click on the section that says photo journal, I'm the cover of their 2010 photo journal on main stage in full armor with a purple background of all colors with a sword up going. Or I'm deliberately trying to be silly, but I think that's not when you take my picture. But that's when everyone else takes my picture. I mean, the really cool pictures, those never end up anywhere. And there's not very many of them, so you'd think they'd be like highlights. But today, because I just thought I might be sitting down and somebody was doodling, and they're good at it. From last night. See, now that's talent. I don't do anything like that. All I do is tear things up, or cut them up. Okay, this panel is Samurai versus Ninja, the quiz. Was anybody here last year for this panel? Darn, I'm sorry. They gave me this panel again, and I can't vary it like I do the sword classes, where we can just do different moves, because this is a personality profile quiz. But before we take the quiz, let's talk just a little bit about our 2 categories. We have the samurai warriors from feudal Japan, the embodiment of honor and discipline and training. And we have the ninja warriors, the dirty fighters that had no honor and hid their faces. At least that's the perception the samurai had of them. Hollywood looks at the ninja a little bit different. They're very cool, especially if they're reptiles. And hey, my instructor was in the first 2 Ninja Turtle movies, so I kind of have to like ninja. And he has, I think, 4 books out on ninjutsu and training for that stuff. So I thought he was kind of a good source to go to about this whole samurai versus ninja, because he's been both. And he's not one of the turtles. That was disappointing. When I first heard my sensei was in the Ninja Turtle movies, I was like, were you Raphael or Donatello? He's like, no. Tatsu. Like, Tatsu wasn't one of the turtles. He's like, no, turtles, bad guys. I'm like, I watch different movies. I thought the turtles were the good guys. He's like, no, have Rat as sensei. Bad. All right, fine, different opinion. I kind of agree with him on the rat part. But what I want to do first, before we take the quiz, I want to discuss the samurai and the ninja, so we know who they are. And I would appreciate questions on this. Normally I just keep talking and talking and talking, and if I run out of things, I'll start telling embarrassing stories about myself that'll end up on the internet.
With your permission.
Yeah, which once given is really hard to retract. And since this is a normal panel, I can't really say no recording, because I'm not that important.
Oh, come on.
But I'm not. Okay? And that's the whole recording thing. I mean, if somebody records me saying a bad word, the only person that's going to be disappointed is my mother, and that ship has sailed. My mom is fond of pointing out, I can't remember, it was like 2015, when we had a huge convention at Anime Central, and we had 900 people come play Ninja Olympics with us. It was amazing. And I was all proud and full of myself, and my mom said, you know, being the best swordsman in 2015 America is kind of like being the fastest rider for the Pony Express. It doesn't matter anymore. And I'm like, thanks, Mom! She's like, you went to college for this? I'm like, no, I went to college for pre-law. This is a lot more fun. And this is, I think all the violence just grew out of frustration with being in law school. Is anybody old? Does anybody remember Perry Mason? Book? Thank you, both of the adults. Yeah. I grew up reading those books when I was a little kid, and I wanted to be Perry Mason. I thought if I was a lawyer, I could save people wrongfully accused and do all this stuff. And when I figured out what law school was really like, it was, here I am, bashing people's skulls for a living. I mean, intellectually discussing the philosophical differences between Japan's nobility and their undercurrent of sneaky ninjas. Okay? The samurai were the nobles of Japan. Everything for them was about honor. And the Japanese have two phrases, two words to describe things. One is amote, which is, it literally means to the front, and ura means to the rear. But it also has sociological implications. Amote is public thought, what perception is, and what it's okay to say, and things you would never say. Japanese people tend to be very, very polite, at least with each other. Gaijin don't count because we're basically animals. And it's okay to break your word to a Gaijin because they don't count, but to another Japanese. Okay, so amote is public, and for the samurai, everything had to be above board and without reproach. So you had to pick the right friends, you had to hang around with the right people, you couldn't go to the wrong parties. So those of you that were at the Con Horror Stories and you heard about Wasteland, you can't go, because samurai don't do things like that. The ninja were different. The ninja were commoners. A big difference between the two classes, both of them were warriors and could fight, but the samurai, not only were they nobility, they were born into it, which means they didn't recruit. If your father was a samurai, you were going to be a samurai. If you reproduced, your child would be samurai. Doesn't matter whether he was any good at it or not, he was still going to be samurai. The ninja clans, while some of them were family-based, they also recruited among the peasants, and they looked for certain things. It's kind of funny, after 1600, when the Tokugawas came into power, the biggest employer of spies, called Netsuke, was the government itself. They hired their own spies because the Tokugawas wanted to stay in power, so they had spies everywhere. And when they recruited, there were certain things they looked for among the commoners, and one of the big ones was being left-handed. And that sounds weird, but in feudal Japan, everyone trained the same way. It was a conformist society because largely small landmass, big population. People had to be moving same way, same time, same everything, and everyone trained right-handed. If anybody's familiar with Japanese swords, starting in the 1550s, they were worn edge up, and they were put through the sash on the left side. So a little wooden thing called the kurigata that stuck out on the side of the saya that helped keep it from sliding too deep through the sash. But it went on this side, so you would draw the sword right-handed. The Netsuke would recruit ninja spies that showed signs of being left-handed because it gave you an element of sneak attack in a one-on-one situation. Because if we're going to fight to the death, two samurai, you're right-handed, I'm right-handed, you're going to cue everything off of my right hand moving. You know, like the old Wild Wild West shows with the big thing and the camera's on their hand and one of them twitches and the other one draws. If I'm secretly left-handed, you don't know, I'm holding on to the saya. My right hand's right here and you're waiting and waiting, and all of a sudden I draw the sword out, up, and in. You're dead. And no one knows, so I'm just going to tell them all that I was just faster off the draw. So they did sneaky things like that. For the samurai, it was all about honor. How you did it mattered more than what you did. The ninja were actually more results-oriented. The ends justify the means. They didn't care about credit, they just wanted it to work. It was a big deal to do those duels of honor where your family, you would send an invitation, basically, to fight a duel, and the other guy would send back he accepts, and he'll show up with his second, and we're going to throw down. For a ninja, they wouldn't think anything of accepting the challenge to a duel, and you show up with your second, and I'm not there, but I've got 3 guys on the roof with bow and arrow, and when you show up, they shoot you, and I won. Because I'm smarter than you. Or, if you're a samurai, I cheated. So now that we have a little bit of background, are you ready to take the quiz? Have you ever taken a quiz on Facebook or at Olive Garden while you're waiting for your food? They have the little menu things and you can play all these games. And they have these Facebook quizzes. Facebook's a big one because they've got like, which Marvel superhero are you? And so you answer these questions, and if you like oranges more than apples, you're the Wasp. And if you like apples more than oranges, congratulations, you're Ant-Man. And so you take the quiz, it makes no sense, and when you're done, you didn't get the character you thought. I don't want to be Aquaman. Aquaman's lame. I know I'm Iron Man. So I'm going to take the quiz again. And this time it says I'm Batman. That's cooler, but I still want to be Iron Man because he gets the chicks. So I take the quiz about 10 times, and finally when it says Iron Man, that's the one I post. See, I took the quiz. I knew it all along. I am Iron Man. We're going to take a quiz like that, but the questions are actually a little more relevant than do you like apples or oranges better. We did take one of those at Olive Garden or Applebee's one night. My wife and one of the voice actresses were taking this quiz. I think it was Lisa Ortiz. And it was, which kind of dog are you? And that was one of the questions. Do you like apples or oranges? And I think Jill picked apples and Lisa picked oranges, and it said that Jill was more like a Cocker Spaniel and Lisa was more like a German Shepherd. I'm like, I have no idea how they get that, because neither dog will eat an orange or an apple. But anyway, this is what we're going to do for our quiz. I want you to take one hand, hold up your fingers. You don't have to hold it up like this, but you're starting this quiz with 5 points. So if you have a hand that only has 4 digits on it, use the other one. And if you have one that has 6 digits on it, start with 1 down. So you're going to start with 5 points. I'm going to ask you questions, and with each question I ask, and I'll explain them, you are either going to add 1 point, stand pat and not change your score, or you're going to subtract 1 point, okay? At the end of the quiz, we're going to see how many points you have, and we'll look at the results of our survey to see whether you are more like a samurai or more like a ninja, okay? Personality profile, and we're off. Here we go. First question's easy. Question number 1, do you watch award shows? If you like watching the ESPYs because you want to see which football player won most valuable player or There's a really cute hostess that's doing the show. If you like watching the Oscars, the Tonys, whatever, because you just can't wait to hear more actors tell us how we should vote. I mean, sorry, I love movies, but I don't go to movies to get lectured about politics, and I don't listen to politicians to tell me what movies to go see. Anyway, if you like watching award shows, add 1 point, okay? If you've seen an award show, but it's not really a big deal, it's okay, because you didn't want to find out who won Best Picture, but it's not a big deal. If your friend wants to watch it, you will. Stand pat. If you would rather have your fingernails pulled out one by one without benefit of anesthetic, rather than watch an award show, is that too strong? Does everybody know where I stand on this one now? If you would rather have your fingernails, you just absolutely do not want to watch an award show, subtract a point, okay? And I'm going to flavor these questions a little bit, mostly for comedic effect. There is no right and wrong answer on these, on most of them, okay? Most of them. But that's question number 1. Do you watch award shows? Question number 2. Do you go to movies alone? If there's a new movie out, like the new Jurassic World Part 2, and you really want to see it because it's opening night, and you could wait and go Saturday night with your friends, but it'll be all over Facebook, all the plot and everything, and you don't want to ruin it, so you're going to go Friday, even though your friends can't go. If you go just for special circumstances like that, go ahead and stand pat. Don't change your answer. If you would never go to a movie by yourself because it just says too many negative things about you, and you just don't want to be that creepy guy in the back row of the movie theater with the popcorn and the trench coat. If you just absolutely would refuse to go to a movie by yourself, even if it's the last night of Jurassic World Part 2 and you haven't seen it, but you're not going by yourself, add a point. If you go to movies by yourself because your apartment is right across the street from the mall and the movie theater's there, and there is no way that your best friend is going to go see, I was going to go Jurassic World again, but most people like those movies. I saw Piranha 3D in the theater, and you're laughing because you've seen that movie. Haha, I got you to admit it. And yes, it's awful. But I had a deal worked out with my wife where I would drag her to go to these really horrible horror movies, so I didn't have to go by myself. And then in return, I would allow myself to be forced to go see like Disney movies, which I secretly love anyway. So I talked her into going to see Piranha 3D, and I had to go see Frozen, which I have the entire soundtrack memorized, mostly because I thought Olaf was hysterical. But it worked for me, and it kept me from having to go to movies by myself too often. I've been to a few, but if you don't care if you go to a movie by yourself, it's no big deal. Subtract a point, okay? So if you would never go to a movie by yourself, add a point. If you have, but just because you kind of had to, stand pat. And if you go to movies by yourself all the time and don't care, sometimes it's better to not have your date chattering next to you through the whole movie. There, I got antisocial. Then subtract a point. Question number 3. You're at work. We're an anime con. You're at school. And I realized that could apply to the people in their 30s too. The first time I asked that question, we were in Ohio, and we had like 150 people in the room, and they all laughed. You're at work. Oh, some of you people have jobs, like 4 people raised their hands. Since staffing doesn't count, 2 of them put their hands down. Like, all right, so you're at work. Something needs done. It could be that there's a broken water pipe and there's water pouring out on the floor. There could just be an electrical cable loose. Somebody could have left the air conditioning on. Something needs done, so you step up and do it. Okay? I don't know your job or your school or your social set, so picture yourself in that environment and seeing something that needs done, and you just take care of it. If you have to tell somebody, wow, who put all that stuff away? That was me, I did it. Or you post it as a status update on Facebook. Feeling pretty good. I put away the dishes before my mom told me to. If you have to let somebody know that you did it, at a point. If you don't say anything, but if your boss comes by and goes, hey, who filed all this stuff? You'd be like, oh yeah, that was me. Is that okay? So you'd let them know, but if nobody asks, you don't say anything, but it doesn't matter. Stand pat. Again, pretty normal answer. If you would lie, your boss comes up and says, hey, who put all that stuff away? And you go, I don't know, it wasn't me. If you would lie about it, just to keep anybody from knowing it was you that did it, subtract a point. And keep in mind, that includes if you're in government work, and most people who've ever worked for the government, whether it's a school system or what, you already know that if you go above and beyond your job description, you don't want to admit it because they will promote you. And you will get more responsibility and not necessarily more pay. So it's worth it for you to go, no, it wasn't me. But it still counts. So if something needs done, you have to tell somebody, add one. If you don't care, stand pat. If you would lie about it and say, no, I didn't do it. Santa Claus did that. Subtract a point. All right. Question number 4. You join a gym. Yeah, I know, we're an anime con, but it could happen. I didn't come up with a good reason for that. I'm looking at this question going, this is never going to work in an anime con. You join a gym to get in really good shape. And I was going, you guys aren't going to go for that. And somebody went, no, I joined a gym. I wanted to get in shape for a cosplay. And the whole room went, oh, yeah, because that made sense. Being healthy and being able to protect yourself better didn't matter at all. But getting in shape for a cosplay, that resonated. You join a gym and you get in fabulous shape. Aside from going out on stage for the cosplay thing, you get in dramatically different shape. Do you go buy an entirely new wardrobe to show off the new you? I mean, you went from baggy clothes to all the ripped tank tops and the skin-tight leggings and stuff that normally you would have been embarrassed to be seen even at home in, but it's the new me. I got to show this off. If you get in great ripped shape from joining the gym and you go buy a new wardrobe to show off the new you because it's a positive outlook, you feel better about yourself. Add a point. If you get a couple things, because honestly, you lost a lot of weight and the pants don't fit right and you're way too hip-hop to get a belt, so you gotta buy at least one more pair of jeans just so they stay on. If you would buy some clothes just for practicality's sake, stand pat. But if you would join a gym, get ripped, and intentionally hide your new shape so nobody knew, because how you look is nobody's business except for your own and that certain special someone, subtract a point. And that still works if you're hiding the new you until you go out on stage for cosplay. Because that's still kind of a lot of thought going into, I'm going to wear these baggy sweatshirts and for 6 months until it's time for Anime Wichita and my moment on Cosplay Runway. Okay? Question 5. You're halfway done already. It's not a tough quiz. The hardest part is trying to figure out where I stand on these. Because I'm going to make fun of about half of them and you don't know whether I'm serious or not. And I'm Samurai Dan, so you have to assume that I'm going to vote on one side rather than the other. Question number 5. You're back to work. You're at work and somebody disses you. Somebody causes you problems on the job. You guys are laughing like this has already been done. Or you're at school, okay? And I realize school is nothing but a social minefield. And people dissing you is going to happen on a daily basis. So most of you should be able to relate to this unless you homeschool. And if you have siblings, this dynamic still happens. Okay? So you're at work. Somebody disses you and they cause you problems at work. We're going to talk about conflict resolution here. If somebody disses you and causes you problems at work, if you would go directly to them and say, hey, I don't appreciate what you did, I'll be waiting for you in the parking lot after. No, I mean, if you would go to that person directly, and I'm not saying you have to threaten them, that's just me, and I have a lot of hidden frustrations. If you would go to that person directly to try to resolve the conflict and just tell them face to face, hey, that's not cool, you can't do those kinds of things. If you're that kind of person where you would go and resolve it, because communication is key, at a point. If you'd probably let it go just because, it didn't actually cost you anything, you still have a job, that part's going all right, so I'll just let it go, but I'm going to be watching them from now on. Stand pat. Your score is going to be messed up. If you're not the sort of person to go confront them directly, but you're not going to let it stand, nobody disses me like that. If you are the sort of person that would not go directly to them and say anything, but you would immediately go behind their back and launch a counteroffensive to get them fired or in trouble or break them up with their boyfriend or whatever because of what they said about you, if you're that person, subtract a point. And I did have a girl ask me last month, what if you would do the first one and the third one? What if you would go to them up front and then still try to stab them in the back? And see me after class, I'm recruiting you, you're hired. If you're the sort that would do both, you're going to end up subtracting a point because you still went the behind the back and stab them thing. I have no idea what he's doing. I'm too afraid to ask. Question number 6. This one actually gets a little bit more complicated, but it references back to what we were talking about with recruiting ninja earlier. Do you use your non-dominant hand? This is normally a question my wife asks because she can get away with saying things that I can't because I would be deemed defensive if I said, if you are left-hand retarded. That's what she calls it. My wife is extremely one-hand dominant, right-handed with things. She can write and throw a ball and stuff, but she absolutely cannot do anything with her left hand, which is tough because she helps me teach two-sword combat. So she's almost always the one using just the one sword because with two, she's a liability. If you use your non-dominant hand, never. I mean, you could hold a bottle of water with your non-dominant hand, but you can't text with it. If you are left-hand retarded, or for you lefties, if you are right-hand retarded, at a point. If you can use your left hand for some things, I mean, if you really push it, you can eat with your left hand. And I don't mean like this, I mean using utensils or chopsticks. If you can use your left hand for some things, but obviously you're still one-hand dominant, stand pat, you're normal. If you're ambidextrous, and people that are truly ambidextrous and use either hand for everything are incredibly rare, okay? But I'm saying if you can switch hit, if you play baseball, that just means you can bat from the left side of the box against a right-handed pitcher or from the right side of the box. If you can switch hit, if you can throw a football 30 yards with either hand, or do two-sword combat, that kind of thing, subtract a point. And if you don't know which one of those you are, when the panel's over, go into the bathroom. This sounds terrible. And whatever you do in the bathroom normally with one hand, try to do it the other way. Use that, that's still just awful. For those of you that have shoes that tie, so all the girls in sandals and the guys with slip-on shoes, or Velcro, doesn't count. But an easy way to test this, you have both shoes on. Untie both of them, and then don't concentrate on it. You've been tying your shoes for years, you don't even think about it. First shoe, just tie your shoe. Don't think about it, but watch what your hands are doing. See which one makes the loop and which one pulls the bunny through. And then try to tie your other shoe with the other, using your hands opposite. That'll tell you a lot, okay? For our school, you guys did a two-sword class. When I'm training students to use two weapons to find out whether or not you can use both hands, the trick is I'll take a tennis ball and I'll stand right about here from you. And while I'm talking to them, I'll just randomly go zing and throw it. Not down the middle, but I'll throw it at this shoulder. And if you're really right hand dominant, you will reach across your body to catch the ball. Even though it's slower and less efficient, you're more likely to get hit. If your initial reaction is mostly just whichever one works, you'll just catch it in your left hand. And it's an easy way to tell. And I've been doing that test at our school for years, teaching two-sword. And the first time I let my son help teach two-sword class, he said he'd handled that drill with the new people, and I should have known better. But I went off and was working people doing the strike combinations with each other, and all of a sudden I heard, ow! And then somebody swore, which is not something you do on the dojo floor. Profanity is usually a push-up penalty. But I had to cancel the penalty because my son went right up like this and went, boom, and threw it dead center down the middle. And what the kid did was this, ah! And both hands missed, and he got hit right in the face with the tennis ball. And I'm like, Michael, no! I said, did you find out whether they're right-handed or left-handed? And he goes, no, I just found out they can't catch. That's not even one of the questions. But we have a galley-style kitchen at home. For those of you that aren't familiar with galley-style, there's countertop on both sides. Usually the stove's on this side, the sink's on this side. And it's close enough. If you're tall, you can almost stand like this and just reach in the refrigerator for the egg, crack it open, put it in the skin. And you just kind of do it this way. Or at worst, you're here. You're facing one side, and you can just, small steps, turn and pivot. And what I've noticed is, if I need something that's on this side behind me, I'll just reach out and grab it with this hand and open it and pour it in. And my wife will go like this. Turn, step, step, pick it up with her right hand, and step back. So she'll take 4 steps when she doesn't need to take any, because she's really right hand dominant. And so now that I've way over explained that, if you are offhand retarded, at a point, if it doesn't, you can do a couple things with your other hand, but it's not really a strong suit, stand pat. If you can do those kinds of things, switch hit, subtract a point. It's not that fun. Question number 7. This is my favorite one. And it's not even mean. Well, it could be. Question number 7. Do you sneak up on people? And I don't mean intentionally sneaking up on somebody to scare the life out of them because you owe them from last year when they jumped out of the closet on your birthday. I just mean without trying to. Are you that person that the rest of the group is standing at the doorway of the hotel waiting to go to dinner? And everybody's going, hey, where's John? And you've been standing there in the group the entire time. And you go, I'm right here. And they jump 6 feet. That's what I mean by sneaking up on people. If you have one friend who's oblivious that you always sneak up on, this doesn't count because everybody has that guy who doesn't know anything, and you're already laughing and pointing at the person next to you. If you have somebody that's oblivious and everything sneaks up on her, the new Quick Trip they put up, and it took them 6 months to build it, was a surprise to her. That doesn't count, okay? So if you can't sneak up on anybody, I mean, you walk into a room, even if the door is at the back of the room, when you walk in, everybody knows. Whether it's by chance or design, everybody knows when you enter the room. You just have that flair and style. And I don't mean you make noise. People can actually sense your energy. Easy way to demonstrate this. Who has a mom? If you're not raising your hand, you're a pod person and we'll have to kill you. If you have a mother, has your mother ever been mad? I mean furious mad and never said a word, and you walked into the kitchen and went, I'm leaving, and you just walk back out because you can feel it. That anger, it's just there without saying anything. And there are people who walk into a room and everybody turns around and looks. They're not loud, they don't say anything, they just have that personality. The Japanese called it wa, W-A. It was their life force. And some of the elite ninja schools actually believed in this so strongly, they trained their students in how to draw that back into themselves so that you couldn't sense they were there. I mean, being Japanese, they kind of went to extreme distances on everything to where it just became something ludicrous. Not that the Japanese are prone to do that, tea ceremony. I just wanted a drink, but if you're that person, you cannot walk into a room without people knowing you're there at a point. If you sneak up on that one friend because even wide awake and looking at you, she's oblivious, the lights are on, nobody's home. If you sneak up on those people, and otherwise, every once in a while your mom doesn't see you come into the room and goes, oh, you're here, good. Stand pat, that's normal. If you're that guy, and you're 6'7" and you weigh 245 pounds, and you wear samurai armor, which is loud, clanks, and weighs a further 65 pounds, so in the helmet you're 7'1" and weigh 310 pounds, and you still sneak up on people because they don't know you're there constantly, and you give people heart attacks, and your mother smacks you because you snuck up on her, and you weren't trying to, you just walked into the room. My wife has literally hit me with a skillet for going into the kitchen and not announcing myself first. Like, I walked, it was 25 feet, how did you not see me? And she goes, I don't know. It's like a mind cloud thing. Actually, I just think I'm invisible to women. It's very sad in high school. If you're that guy or gal, or however you prefer to be known, you get to pick whatever pronoun you want. It's a free country. If you sneak up on people all the time, subtract one. All right, we've got one left. And this works better in Kansas than it does in New England. Here we go. Would you cheat to win? If you would never cheat to win because the rules exist for a reason, and abiding by those rules are the only thing that separates us from total anarchy and chaos, I'm not going to cheat no matter what. If you're that person that you go to Walmart and they've got 2 sets of doors and they open automatically either way, but one says exit and the other says entrance, and you come up to the wrong one and go, ooh, that says exit. The door opens anyway because the sensor went off, and you won't go through it because it says exit. You go around to the entrance and walk in because the rules are important. If you stop at stop signs in parking lots when the mall is closed, that's you. And forget Pirates of the Caribbean where they say, those are mostly guidelines. If you would not cheat to win, no matter what, at a point. If you would cheat to win if you thought it was worth it, I mean, you're sitting there at the bus station waiting to get on, and the guy sitting next to you is an absolute dirtbag. You know for a fact from being on the bus with him prior, the guy's a convicted child molester. And he's sitting there, falling asleep in the seat next to you, and he has a winning lottery ticket for $110 million in his hand. And he doesn't know he has it. He doesn't know he won. He scratched it off and kind of blacked out because he also drinks. And he's sitting there with $110 million in his hands, and you're sitting next to him. You've done everything right your entire life. Santa Claus has always come to visit you because you're on the nice list, but the ticket in your hand isn't worth a thing. And you could switch tickets with him and just walk away and he would never know. If you do that, stand pat, you're a normal human being. Okay, for most of you, you're going, oh, thank God, because honestly, if that scratch ticket was worth $50, I'd do it. Because the guy's a dirtbag, he's got it coming. But $110 million, that's enough incentive that almost everyone would do that, okay? In fact, 25 years ago, they made a movie about some rich guy that offered a married woman $1 million to spend the night with him. And that was the whole movie, whether or not this couple talked about it, whether or not it was worth it for them, for her to do it. It was a huge movie. You're nodding. Indecent Proposal, right? Woody Harrelson, Demi Moore, Robert Redford, was that? And no, I didn't watch it. You know why? I found the very premise disgusting. Because she agreed to do it. And you know what that makes her? A prostitute. Hey, well, I'll give you $10 for this in the corner. Hey, what do you think I am? We've already determined what you are. What we're settling on now is price. Sorry, Demi Moore hates me. And before you go, how does she even know who you are? I'm from Oxford, Iowa. If anybody's familiar with the actor Ashton Kutcher, it's his hometown. And I'm good friends with his cousin. Because she's hot. I mean, her son was one of my students. She must have been hot. Ashton took her to prom. Only in Iowa can you take your hot cousin to prom and it's okay. Well, there's Arkansas. If you would never cheat to win no matter what, at a point. If you would take that lottery ticket, stand pat. If you would cheat to win just to see if you could get away with it, if you're that person that cheats playing cards with your niece and nephew and they're 4, because it's an important life lesson for them. If you would cheat to win, congratulations, you are a member of the New England Patriots. But no, that's not right. This is why I said this joke goes over much better in Kansas than it does in New England. Because on the East Coast, they didn't like that joke at all. But Kansas City area, we're all about that. If you would cheat to win because the rules don't matter, it's just simply about achieving your goal, subtract a point. That's all 8 questions. You started with 5 points. You had 8 opportunities. We have a range of scores all the way from 13 down to -3. Okay? And I don't know where anybody is at, but let's see what the results of our survey say. Let's go, if you have 3 points or less, raise your hand. 3 points or less, you're on the ninja end of the scale. You guys probably guessed that by the whole, I don't watch award shows, and I wouldn't step up and tell everybody what I did, and I would totally cheat to win. All right, if you scored 3 or less, you're more like a ninja than a samurai. Now, I did mention that you could go all the way to -3. Do we have anybody that had a negative number? All right. Did anybody have 0? See, I kind of figured I'd get you in on that one. You just barely missed this. If you are -1 to -3, you are a totally amoral, untrustworthy psycho with no friends and an FBI file. Welcome to the Anime Con. We did this once. I had a dad with his 2 daughters sitting in the audience, and the 2 girls both scored so high on the samurai end it wasn't even funny, and dad was -2. And they were like, oh my God, I can't believe my dad scored like that. And the one girl hit her dad and said, Dad! And he had his arms crossed and he just looked at her and said, as far as you know, I'm your dad. And just, like, that's traumatizing your teenage girl. I thought that guy should have got an award. Okay, who had between 4 and 6? That's a little bit more. If you scored between 4 and 6, that's a normal human range for scoring. You started with 5. Most of them you probably stood pat on. You had a couple higher and a couple lower, so you ended up normal. Congratulations, you're a normal human being. I'm guessing you don't hear that very often. I'll write it down and you can show it to your mom when you get home. I mean, yeah, I know, sorry. No, he can't be normal. He's just the guy that drives you around.
I'm the one that drives everybody around.
If you scored between 4 and 6, you're a normal human or an alien trying to pass.
I'm wondering about that because last year he was a ninja.
You were a ninja last year.
Yes, he was.
See, all the questions are the exact same. That's why I was disappointed you guys came back. No, I'm glad you did. All right, so If you scored 7 or higher, raise your hand. 2? We have 2 samurai? And see, I would have guessed that from you because you've been looking at me, making eye contact, and all just right there. I'm upfront about everything. Honesty is the best policy. I like award shows. You were just being difficult. So I'm guessing you just chose different than her on half of them. So I'm not sure you really qualify for this. But if you scored 7 or higher, you're more on the samurai end than the ninja end. However, it's possible you could have ended up with double figures. You started with 5, there were 8 questions. Did anybody end up with 10 or higher? Oh, that's disappointing. I'm going to read it anyway because it's funny. If you scored 10 or higher, you're an arrogant prick. With way too much invested in your family pride, probably have a Twitter account and know the Kardashians. So, you shook your head, you know who she is. I know, it's impossible not to, because somehow that's more important than people who are running rescue missions or anything. There's our quiz. To be honest with you, we had fewer samurai this time than I was expecting. Normally, this is like an even 1, 1, 1. It's divided into thirds. We did a really tiny convention in Chicago 2 years ago that had maybe 100 people at the whole thing. And we had 20 people come to this panel, and 2 of them sat on this side of the room, 1 sat in the very back chair, and 1 sat in the very front chair. So they were as far apart as you could get. And the other 18 people were all friends, and they all sat in the first 2 rows together. When we finished the quiz, all 18 of them tested as samurai, and the 2 that sat on the other side of the room apart from each other scored in the negative numbers as a ninja. It was just weird. And we did have one, that was only the second time we've had nobody in the normal category. This was a little heavy towards ninja, but it's Wichita, I'm not really that surprised. Maybe a little disappointed, but you guys are having way too, I would have guessed that on all of them. I'm like, I could just read these scores for you. The guy sitting in the back, you go to movies by yourself too, don't you? See? Well, yeah, nobody's going with me. I couldn't talk my wife into going to Piranha 3 Double D, the sequel. It was that stupid. So I went out too. I didn't go see it. I rented it on Redbox. That movie was still good enough to qualify for Redbox. By the way, don't watch it. It's horrible. I mean, even for what it's named, it was disappointing for that too. Yes?
What is your score?
I'm Samurai Dan. What do you think my scores are?
I've also been to your panels. I know.
Oh. To be honest with you, the only score that I end up adding a point on that is on the samurai end is if somebody at work disses you, would you go directly to them? I'm a huge believer in communication, and I'm also a huge believer that people are much ruder anonymously online or via email or even telephone. I find at 6'7", 245 pounds and armed, people are more polite to me in person. And I don't ever escalate fights. I'm not that guy that comes up and meet me in the parking lot. But I do try to fix things on the spot and in person. And that's always my thing. And I will not go behind somebody's back to cause them problems. I prefer to do it face to face. And so I score samurai on that one. And then would you cheat to win? That whole Walmart thing with the door, that's me. It drives everyone in my group batty. Because that's, 6 of us from the con will go out to dinner and we'll hit Walmart because the voice actors want snacks in their room too. And so we'll all go walking into Walmart and both doors will open and they'll all just walk in and they'll lose me because I walked around to the door that says entrance and go in and they're all looking and Jill's like, don't worry about it, he always does that. You can't go through the exit door. So for the rest of the weekend, they'll do it on purpose. They'll take every exit, they'll go out the left side when they should be. They'll walk the wrong side of the hall in traffic just to see if I'll walk with them or not. You're not supposed to. This is America. You walk on the right side and they pass you on the left. And I'm that pathetic, programmed, something. I'm the guy that if you can buy me a present and just leave it in a bag and put it next to me on the couch 6 months before Christmas, and I will never touch it because I'm not supposed to know. I will not look at your phone. I won't get in your profile on Facebook. I don't even lock the door to my house because what if somebody needs something and I'm not home? People have different definitions of need, though, and they'll take things. But so I end up scoring on the ninja side. My wife is like you. Her score will change dramatically based on how she feels. Oh, hers will go. She'll go all the way from samurai down to ninja, and sometimes it's in between when she's just happy and had a good meal, and Mama Bear is doing great, and the puppy's right there, and she'll be just fine. And then there's other times that she's samurai and all about honor and wanting new outfits. And then there's times that she's just ninja, don't talk to me. And I didn't do that. So most people's scores will change. If we took the quiz again tomorrow, you'd feel a little different about things and your score would change. But it should normally stay in the same category, especially if you ended up with negative numbers. And that doesn't surprise me from you either. But I was going to say, is there any other questions?
It's a cold day and you walk in Walmart. Are you exiting cold? And you walk out of Walmart. Are you exiting cold? Or are you exiting, like, are you exiting Walmart into cold? Or are you entering cold? Wait, I can't hear this.
I'm really sorry, that one messed me up. And I'm not sure, partly because I couldn't hear it and they were playing police.
Enter and exit doors. If you walk into the store, are you exiting the cold or are you entering Walmart?
Okay, that I get. And to be honest with you, I'm a martial arts and tactical instructor, so to me I am exiting one set of dangers and entering another. So I'm the bad guy who has to say both. Because I am, normally I'll consider the outdoors my environment. And so when I go into Walmart, that's a whole nother thing. Because the people of Walmart are concentrated in the building. In the parking lot, there's only a few of them. So it's usually more that I'm entering Walmart, but really it's just, I'm exchanging variables. Just like when I'm in here. I know where the exits are, and we blocked it with chairs. Which is why I spend most of my time standing where I still have one foot this way, where I can go right down the middle, even over in your camera if I have to. Because bad things happen. You're Ozzy. All right, you guys have been awesome. We're out of time.